Mike Lindsay.
Secrets and Lies, the blockbuster report on torture, blows the lid off some gruesome CIA tactics post 9/11.
The explosive report, what we never knew. The CIA torture revealed.
Tonight, the Senate's scathing report on CIA interrogation of terror suspects.
The release of a highly controversial and inflammatory report on CIA interrogation techniques following the 9/11 attacks.
A few samples there of the media reports earlier this week after the Senate released its report on the CIA's enhanced interrogation techniques. So how did the media do in covering this story? Howard Kurtz is the host of Media Buzz right here on FNC. It airs on Sunday mornings. Howie, how'd they do?
Well, there were two waves of media outrage here, Megan, that kind of collided over this story. The dominant one was captured by the sound bites that you just played, that this was horrifying details about gruesome interrogation techniques employed by the CIA. New York Times banner headline, Senate panel faults CIA over brutality and deceit. But the other wave, and you were very critical on this point, was aimed at Dianne Feinstein and the Democrats for potentially jeopardizing the lives of Americans around the globe by releasing this report, and also for the one-sided nature of the study, not interviewing any CIA officials.
It was interesting to see, I don't know if we have the Wolf Blitzer soundbite to folks in the control room, but it was interesting to see Dianne Feinstein go on with Wolf Blitzer. And I watched the interview, and I thought he did a great job. I mean, he pressed her on all the relevant points, and boy, she either wasn't expecting it. They had said early in the interview that they've known each other a long time. She either wasn't expecting it or just didn't like it. But he asked her about that point, about what about endangering people's lives? I want to play it for the audience. Watch.
If Americans are killed as a result of this report, and they tell you that, I assume you would feel guilty about that.
I would feel very badly, of course. I mean, what do you think, Wolf Blitzer?
And it went on from there. She didn't much like his questions, but she didn't make herself really available to other media sources this week, Howie.
Yeah, that was an important moment because Wolf Blitzer was asking the senator the question I think we all would have liked to have asked her, which is, you know, how would you feel? Did you contemplate, you know, what the potential impact would be? We're talking here, after all, about techniques the CIA no longer uses that the President Obama has barred for several years. There were other moments, too, I think, that were important in the coverage here, American. Brett Baer's very aggressive interview with Dick Cheney when he pressed him about the nature of some of these techniques. Also, Brian Williams on NBC asking Michael Hayden, the former CIA director, how would you feel if these techniques were used against your family? You know, nobody's going to be prosecuted here, and this is not a trial, but I do think this kind of journalism help hold the players accountable by asking them the tough questions in front of a camera.
And you know, it was interesting to watch on another network some of the coverage and the disdain they had for the tactics. I mean, the need to make clear to the audience how gruesome they found the tactics employed without, I mean, in a vacuum, without taking them back to 3,000 Americans had just been killed. There was a ticking time bomb. The New York Times was citing officials as to talk about their fear of a nuclear bomb going off in the United States of America. It was a time when we believed anything was possible. Is that responsible?
I think you have to explain and remind the audience, the readers, the viewers, about how on edge this country was, with good reason, after 9/11, and especially after the Iraq War, when we did have detainees to try to get information out of. On balance, this was such a big story that I think most media outlets carried conflicting viewpoints, but I was really struck, for example, NBC's Richard Engel, who's a correspondent and a commentator, calling this a despicable program, but at the same time, he said it's hard to fault the CIA because it was doing what the Bush White House wanted.
Well, there's a lot of hypocrisy going around, obviously, and it starts at the White House, which has been critical and in support of this report. At the same time, they're droning people, and it was interesting to watch our own Ed Henry press Josh Earnest on this, a reporter going head-to-head with Josh Earnest saying, you know, how do you claim the moral authority when you guys are droning people, and yet you're so critical of the torture program? There was no out for Josh Earnest there, Howie. What did you think of that exchange?
I thought it was a very important question that Ed Henry raised, and it seems to me that, you know, there is a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking some years later where you know, whether it's Obama administration people or other critics, and, you know, John McCain is also supportive of this report. who say, you know, we should not have done this. This is not who we are. This is not about our values. I think that does, regardless of where you stand on these techniques, I think that does wrench some of this out of context. And John Brennan, Obama's CIA director, you know, was trying to have it both ways, calling some of these techniques abhorrent, but at the same time defending what his agency did.
Right. It's been an interesting week. Howie's got it all covered. Sunday morning, 11 a.m., right?
Right.
See you then. Bye, Howie.
Thanks, Megan.
Let us know what you